This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You gotta work. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Greetings, one and all. Lembit Öpik here on Lembit Öpik Live. There's a clue in the name. On unprecedented TV, as we go from strength to strength. Is that propaganda? I suppose it is a little bit. But you've got to be optimistic if you run a TV station. More than anything, I'm optimistic that so many of you are brave enough to think for yourselves and to watch our output. Thank you so much for doing that. On the show today, as we often have, if you're watching this live on a Wednesday, we've got Buckley MBE joining us to consider the following issue. Is Donald Trump correct to say that Europe is weak? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. In the meantime, don't forget that we have a great lineup of shows, everything from Claire Dyer's Dire Consequences through to Tim Scott Uncancelled, appropriate enough considering he is in charge of the Freedom Association. We try to cater for what you want with news and views. Big news coming up in January. We're hoping to start our art and culture series as well. In fact, that'll very quickly burgeon into an entire channel. I was at a meeting recently with people who are really keen to bring free thinking arts to the station as well. So that's something to look forward to as well. But let's go back to the question, and it is a current affair. Is Donald Trump right to say that Europe is weak? He says that he knows those politicians very well, but some of them are stupid. He says, I'm not sure we've ever had an American president who's so candid. Whether you agree with him or not, you've got to admire the man for telling it like it is. He's never knowingly undersold in terms of expressing his points of view. What does Donald Trump mean? A lot of this is to do with the war, the continuing war in Ukraine. Now, that's something which Europe could have dealt with, but didn't. It took Donald Trump's election back to the White House for any significant developments to occur there. Although the peace process, such as it is, does seem to keep getting mired in hesitation and delay, it could also be argued that in itself is a sign of European weakness, because Europe seems singularly incapable, and its mainstream media as well, of understanding that there are just three demands from Russia. They've never changed them, and why should they? If that's what they believe they require, then they're entitled to stand by their guns, quite literally. But in the meantime, Trump sits across the pond, on the other side of the Atlantic, saying that he's very frustrated by the European Union. I think he also includes Zelensky in that, complaining that Zelensky hasn't had elections and a whole lot more besides. Before I join in discussion with Buckley, let me give you my view. I think Europe is weak, and I think the reason is because we've got fourth-rate politicians, individuals who just don't seem to have what it takes to lead a country, let alone a continent. I have in mind leaders of the United Kingdom, of Germany, of France. Those three on their own represent a couple of 100 million people. And when you look at Macron and Benz, he's the guy in charge of Germany, and Keir Starmer, they just don't engender confidence. They don't look like leaders to me. And as a result, because they haven't got a leadership mentality, they can't think and act as leaders should. That's not causing the war in Ukraine, but it's continuing it. Add to that the really odd behavior of that strange man, Mark Rutte, who's in charge of NATO. and you've got a perfect storm of an ineptitude. And I think that's actually the big reason that Trump is so angry. He doesn't rate the competence of those politicians. What are the implications? Well, that makes the world less stable. It also makes for very bad decision making. Why do we have to spend 5% of our gross domestic product on preparing for war with Russia? Russia doesn't want to invade Europe. Why should it? It's completely irrelevant to Russia's concerns in Ukraine. Russia would much rather, I would say, have a good working relationship and a good economic relationship with the European Union. The Ukraine situation, for anyone who bothers to study history at all, is a very specific and isolated matter, which goes back at least 30 years and rather longer than that even. So putting all that together, my view is that we have a resurgent Russia, which is simply staking its case, and a case which is never really sought to hide from the rest of us. Then on the other side of the border, we've got Zelensky, who, in my view, is utterly useless, with a whole bunch of utterly useless allies. Consequences, continuing deaths, probably 1,000 a day, something like that in Ukraine, almost all of them Ukrainians, and add to that a hemorrhaging of resources, finance, of money all across Europe. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe others feel differently, but let's find out what Nick Buckley MBE thinks. Nick, I had a bit of a rant there, but I'm just very frustrated. I think it's because Trump has used a word that I would use. How are you, though, before we go into that?
I'm good. Thank you.
You're very well dressed today, very posh.
I've decided to smarten myself up. I've decided to smarten myself up. I've always got open necks. I've started doing podcasts now with jumpers on. And I had a conversation with myself. I said, you need to smarten yourself up, sir. And this is the beginning of it.
Well, I feel dressed down on my own show now. I had a tie on all last night. I actually had to go to an arts event, and I put a tie on and a corduroy jacket. Do you know why?
No.
Because that's what I think arts teachers look like.
Yes. Well, if this was going to be about that, I would have made a joke about you looking like one of my teachers at school. That's what popped in my head straight away.
Well, that's what I was trying to look like. I think the humor was slightly lost on the others. They just thought it was a bit naff. But anyway, that's my confessional. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Now, I think I'd like to play a bit of a video about Donald Trump. A lot of people have been talking about his commentary. And essentially, he's been saying that Donald Trump has been criticizing Europe as being weak. And the attitude in the mainstream media is almost like, oh, he shouldn't be saying it. But my feeling is he's perfectly entitled to say it because he's having to wipe the backsides of a whole bunch of fourth-rate politicians. But let's just have a listen to this anyway. Let's see if we can make sense of it. Maybe we can't. Maybe there's no way of listening to this. We'll see if we can get the sound on that.
Save its democracies. Well, let's hear a little of what Donald Trump had to say to Politico about immigration and Europe.
Europe I'm friendly with all of them. I mean, I like all of them. I have no real enemy. I've had a couple that I didn't like over the years. I actually like the current crew. I like them a lot. But and I know them very well. I know them really well. Some are friends, some are okay. I know the good leaders, I know the bad leaders, I know the smart ones, I know the stupid ones. You got some real stupid ones too. But they're not doing a good job. Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job.
I want to ask
They
you
talk
about
too
that.
much, and they're not producing. We're talking about Ukraine. They talk, but they don't produce. And the war just keeps going on and on.
Now, I actually think he's right. What I like about Trump is you don't have to guess what he thinks. And you got some stupid ones, you know. It's very, very direct. What do you make of what he says, Nick?
I think it's obvious he's absolutely spot on, and we've been weak for probably 100 years. I mean, we're getting weaker and weaker. And through that interview, he kept using the word decaying. Europe is decaying. And when you think about that word, we are decaying. The European civilization is decaying in front of our eyes. We can't stop immigration. And he goes on to talk about immigration, you know, that's destroying Western Europe. Immigration is not only bankrupting us, it's causing strife in those countries. It's going to be the cause of civil war in some of those countries. And then he talks about Ukraine. Over the last 100 years, Europe has needed America whenever they've wanted to do something, to stop a war, to invade. Whatever we wanted to do, we've needed America. America saved us twice in just over the last 100 years. And we don't think we're weak. And we have to rely on a different country and a different continent to come save us. And even today, we've got a war on our doorstep in Ukraine. And I don't want to go into the rights or wrongs of that, because, you know, at the end of the day, might is right when you look at history. Powerful countries always dictate. Powerful countries always take land, always conquer countries. I'm not arguing is that right or wrong. That's just fact. But we've got a war on our doorstep, and we're doing nothing about it. We just virtue signal. We're pouring billions into it. And the only people who are going to stop that war are the Americans, and we know that. And our leaders envy Trump, but to a certain extent despise Trump for having the power, because our politicians have no idea what they're going to do. They have no idea how to fix their own countries. They have no idea how to stop immigration. And he's right. Many of our politicians and many of our leaders are stupid because they have no idea what to do about anything.
Yeah, this is the issue I've got. The war rages on in Ukraine. You have these relentless meetings of what I think is ironically called the Coalition of the Willing, which doesn't do a damn thing to stop the Russian advance. Now, it's hardly surprising to me, because as well as having a weak bunch of European leaders, we have a weak Ukraine, which is completely outclassed by the Russian military, which is a scalable operation. If Putin wanted to advance more quickly, he could simply put more resources in. Ukraine can't do that. They're probably responsible for the deaths of 2.2 million people now. That's Warren Thornton, who is a very well-informed investigative journalist's estimate. And they just keep having these meetings every week. Another meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. Just specifically, before we go further into that, Nick, what do you make of the fact that Donald Trump has said all this publicly? Is he out of order, or is he entitled?
Oh, it's fully entitled for many reasons. First of all, Donald Trump and America are one of the few countries in the world that still believe in free speech. We don't in this country. We're locking up ex-footballers now, or potentially locking them up for saying hurty words online. We don't have free speech. They have free speech. And the crux of this issue for Donald Trump is this, and I sort of referred to it a minute ago. He's saying, my country has had to come to your continent twice in the last just over 100 years and sort you guys out. And every time we do it, it costs tens, if not hundreds of thousands of my citizens' lives to do that. And then since those two wars, to protect you and your continent and your old rich countries, to protect you, we've been spending more money than any of yours. And you've not even been spending your fair share. We've been doubling down how much money we've been using to protect you, so we don't have to come and rescue you again. And we're sick of it. And we're entitled now to criticize you because you're weak, because you're stupid, because you keep begging off the USA, and because we have to keep coming and solving your problems for you. And like an adult to a child, it's time you got a good telling off, and you need to hear the truth, because we're sick of this.
I've been told off, by the way, Nick, because good. You don't even know why yet.
I don't care.
How dare you? Next Wednesday, and every Wednesday's in jeopardy now. I take that back. I need you more than you need me, Nick. I've been told off for not reading the comments out enough, so I'm going to do that now. Coleman says, good morning, I like art. What is Donald Trump referring to, though? I think he's referring to the actual leaders. We'll come back to that in a minute. Coleman adds, I think he's referring to the invasion. But now you're being ambiguous. Do you mean invasion across the channel. Do you mean the invasion in Ukraine? And I call them because they're not leaders; they're PR agents. And then there's yes, Coalition of the Sausages. That's Garlements, yeah. I always laugh when I see this thing about the return of the sausages. I'm going to make a mistake like that. Dave Toby 4444 says they're not weak, they are evil. Interesting point there. And then that's led to a long debate. Do people honestly think Starmer's making the decisions? Yeah, I need to go to break in a minute, but this is the thing a lot of people say, that and do keep your comments coming, by the way. Just go to the feed and put your comments in. I'll try and read them out. The question here, Nick, is Starmer making the decisions, or is there something deeper? Is that a conspiracy theory?
I don't buy into conspiracy theories, mainly because I worked for the government for a decade and I've seen the incompetence firsthand. So, my go-to answer is always incompetence. Now, is Starmer making the decisions? Well, Starmer's making no decisions because he's too scared to make any decisions. The coalition of the willing has got nothing to do with stopping the war in Ukraine. The coalition of the willing is a little group of leaders who are trying to work out, pardon me, are trying to work out how they can develop some good PR at home for the next election. That's what the coalition of the willing is all about, PR.
Quite a damning indictment. I want to look into that with you a little bit later on. You're watching me, Lembit Öpik, here on Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Please subscribe. Go to the YouTube and subscribe. It'll take you 20 seconds. Doesn't cost you anything. The more you subscribe, the more we can do on the station. And after the break, I want to look at that coalition of the willing, witless, or whatever you want to call it. What's it actually mean? Tim Scott, Uncancelled, who does some absolutely superb work. We're going to rerun some of his earlier shows as well, because they do stand the test of time, and it's by popular request. Also by popular request, we've got the very sartorially elegant Nick Buckley. I didn't realise you had...
I don't know what that means. You could be insulting me. You can't use big words at me. You can't.
You're well dressed. That's what I mean. You've got a tie on. People, where you're in the north of England, people must gawp at you as you walk down the street. There you go. Hark at him, they'll be saying. Not going to try and impersonate you.
Well, every now and again, I take my tie off and I use it to tie my whip it up.
For some reason, that reminds me of all kinds of strange sketches where people are sticking magazines and newspapers into their shoes so that whippets or ferrets don't run up their trousers. I don't know where that comes from. It's Morecambe and Wise, maybe, or something. I can't remember. Or Frank Spencer. I can't remember now. But now that you've evoked those kinds of images, I'm going to show you three pictures, and I just think these three pretty much sum up the difference between the people we're talking about. There's one which I always like. Can we get that iconic picture of Donald Trump? Yeah, they always know that's the one I want. I mean, that's an iconic shot. He has just been shot.
Yeah.
And the defiance he shows there it's really impressive. Now, that's a strong image in my view.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is an amazing shot. I think it's the shot that won him the election, actually. Then we've got Vladimir Putin. There he is, doing his impersonation of Clint Eastwood, the man with no name. I think there's another one with him with a gun as well. I'm not sure if we've got that one available. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, there he is. I mean, he does look pretty tough there. You wouldn't want to be bumping into him in the countryside. But then we've got Keir Starmer. My team found this headline: Keir Starmer is the worst prime minister in modern history. He looks so weak and gormless, in my opinion. And I'm sure they'll find another one to put up in a minute. And every time you look at him, you just think, this man, he just, yeah, that's another one. Just look at him. He doesn't look like a leader. He looks so, I don't know, just implausible. And it's not because anyone can have a bad picture taken. It's just because there's just nothing there. This picture's representative of his absence, I would say.
It's hard to judge someone from pictures.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to judge people by their actions. So from his actions, you're completely right. Everything he said is completely right, just based on his actions.
Yeah.
And based on Trump. I mean, that picture of Trump, I mean, we need to put some context to that. He'd just been shot in the head. His bodyguards are trying to get him off the stage, and he refuses to leave because through pure frustration and anger, he jumps to his feet as if to say, I'm here, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Shoot me again, because I'm not for changing, because I want to save my country. And the message that sends to American people is, here we have a president that you can shoot in the face and he still gets up and moves forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hell of a reputation to have.
And he shouts, fight, fight, fight.
Yes.
And it's just everything. I'm not sure if we can get the picture of the leader of my old party, the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey. If we can, we'll put that up as well. So that's Donald Trump. That's what he looks like. That's the man who's in charge of the free world. And when we've got him, yeah, there it is. Yeah. And then we've got this in the United Kingdom. I used to share an office with Ed Davey, nice guy, but it just says it all. It just says it all. No wonder he thinks Donald Trump thinks the leaders in Europe are weak when they behave like that. It's risible. And
that's because one is a serious leader who's going to make serious decisions, and the other knows he's never going to be that leader, and he's trying to copy Boris Johnson in, look at me, I'm a lovable clown, you can have a pint with me, I'm fun, please vote for me because I don't take things too seriously. But do you know what, Lembit? We're at a stage in our country now where I want everybody to take everything seriously when it comes to politics and when it comes to running this country, because as Trump says, we're decaying.
Let's look at this coalition of the willing. They had yet another meeting, and these meetings are just endless. Yeah, there they are again. The Gang of Four, Benz on the left there from Germany, always blowing their noses. Always very peculiar how often they have to blow their noses. And I'll leave that there. Now then you got Starmer, then you got Zelensky, and then you got Macron. These people, just not one of them seems plausible to me. Not one of them. They all seem to me completely bereft of initiative and of what does the coalition of the willing mean to you?
It means we can't allow America to take all the credit for what if this war ever stops. We can't allow that, because that makes us look bad in our home countries. Therefore, let's create a Gang of Four where we'll go on TV every month and we'll pretend that we're contributing to a ceasefire. We'll pretend we're coming up with answers to this war on the doorstep of Europe that nobody wants, that never should have started in the first place, but nobody wants. And we'll pretend we're doing something about that, because if we don't, we're going to look even weaker and more pathetic at home. That's what the coalition's all about.
Yeah, and you just look at these people, and they're all associating themselves with this man who's a professional clown. That's his profession. He spent most of his career acting and playing the piano with his private part. That's his party piece. And then he thinks he can just drift from that to politics. I did go into professional stand-up for a while, and I know I'm not as good as, or not because I'm as good at times, but I'm not as consistent as the actual professionals. And I packed it in for various reasons. But he thinks he can just go from stand-up comedy to running a war. But look at the allies he's got: Macron, Starmer, and Benz. These are not the people that you would choose in a lineup for your team at school, is it?
Let's talk about the qualities we want and we need in leaders, and none of them four have it. So we need qualities such as, I mean, when you're a leader, you never get easy choices to make. It's not like, oh, I've got A and B to do. Oh, it's obvious. Do A, it's obvious. Never works like that, because every choice you've got is a poor choice. There is no easy choices. And you're trying to work out what's the poor choice I have to make here that has less repercussions, that has less consequences down the line. What can I do here that might make me more unpopular at home, but I know 100% this is the best decision for the country? What decisions I can make that are going to put my country on a better footing in a medium to long term that may last for centuries, but will get no benefits over the short term. So therefore, it looks like I'm not achieving anything. And real leaders always make the decision that puts their country first for the medium to long term, and safety and security and economics. But I mean, it's not just them four. All European leaders at the moment seem to be making short-term decisions that are good for them at the election box. And you can't run a country like that. And Trump's doing the opposite. You know, that's why lots of people hate Trump, because he doesn't care about his PR. He's making those tough decisions. He closed the southern border. He's deporting illegals. He's doing lots of things that lots of people don't like, but he's doing it knowing it's the best for the country. In a nutshell, that's a leader, not the people we have on our decaying continent.
And when you see Trump with those leaders, and he's spent time with all of them, really. Well, there he is with Starmer. You just feel that they're in completely different leagues. Whether you like Trump or not, there's no doubt he comes across as an international statesman. I cannot bring myself to even pretend, I think, that Starmer's anywhere near that. But we're stuck with him for another 4 years by the looks of things. I mean, this is the problem.
I don't want any leader to be an international statesman. I don't want Trump to be an international statesman. I want all our leaders across the globe to be looking after their country. Now, what they do that benefits their country may benefit the rest of the world, but that's a secondary point. And that's part of the problem, especially European leaders. I'm failing at home. There's nothing I can do at home. The people at home think I'm failing and hate me and boo me, just like happens to Starmer. Therefore, I'll spend all my time pretending to be an international leader, and that will get me some press at home, stood next to other leaders, and people will think I'm a real leader. I don't care what the rest of the world think of you. I don't care what other leaders think of you. I want you at home fixing our problems. Because I'll tell you something, Lembit, you know, and I know, we've got so many of them.
Yeah, we do. And we got there we are. They're the two leaders of our country.
Oh,
Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. I think this might be Photoshop, but you don't have to look very far to find really bad pictures of Starmer.
It makes me want to burst into a line of Land of Hope and Glory.
Oh, somebody else has not been singing his praises that's well anticipated, team, is Wes Streeting. He's so weak. Starmer's so weak that his own house, number 10 Downing Street, made up this story that Wes Streeting was planning a leadership bid. Well, if Wes Streeting wasn't thinking of standing before, he certainly flipping well is now. I mean, this is the ridiculous thing. So on the one hand, we've got Donald Trump. I have a different sort of opinion. This is very rare, but a different opinion to you. I actually do want the American president to be an international statesman. I want the Russian, the Indian, and the Chinese leaders to be the same. Less so the United Kingdom at the moment. I think we've massively reduced in our international credibility. Whether you liked Margaret Thatcher or not, she did walk tall on the global stage. As I have to say, so did Tony Blair. I thought he had a good relationship with Clinton, but we're nowhere near this now. And what I'm wondering, and maybe we'll finish on this question. It might take a few minutes to talk about it. I'm wondering if the weakness that Donald Trump's talking about is genuinely adding to the danger to us, our world, because in an effort to try to look strong, just like a bully, because I think bullies are often incredibly insecure people, that they're saber rattling. So you got, in my view, very foolish people like Mark Rutte, who, for some crazy reasons, been allowed to run NATO, saying, "Oh, we need to put 5% of our money into war." And I saw, even just before we came on air today, if you're watching this live, yet another conversation about how long United Kingdom could hold out if somebody invaded us. Who are they thinking about? Scotland? France? And so when these people, these weak leaders, try to look tough, they make unstable decisions.
They do. Many wars have been caused by people trying to look tough, and then one thing happens and someone shoots someone. Next thing you know, you're in a full-blown war. History books are full of that. Now, we should always be prepared for war. We should always be prepared for our allies today becoming our enemies tomorrow. You know, we had a war with France that was so long, we called it the 100-Year War. I think it was 113 years. We've had 2 world wars with Germany. Russia is still a threat. I don't think they're an imminent threat, and they probably won't ever go beyond that. But it's not out of the realms of possibility that Russia, if they get their way with Ukraine, may then go somewhere else. That's not out of the realm of possibility. It's very unlikely, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. China is, we've had this conversation before, you don't agree with me on this, but China is a huge threat. And I foresee in our lifetime, we'll be shooting each other with China. There'll be a war, not invasion in Europe. It's too far away at this moment in time, but there'll be skirmishes with China. China is a clear and present danger to the West. But to keep that in a box, we need to make sure our forces, European forces, are strong. So we need to be investing in them all the time. But that's not the same as then using them. You talked about international leaders. International leaders always want to mess in someone else's country. Let's look at Tony Blair messing in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's because he thought he was an international leader. It's up to me to look at the rest of the world and make sure they're living the lives that I think they should be living. They should be doing the things I think they should be doing. That's why I'm against international leaders, because they always want to interfere in someone else's backyard. And then use our military to do it. But I think we do need a strong military, because we have no idea what's coming down the road.
There are 2 things I do disagree with you on, as you rightly say. Incidentally, Columnist makes a good point, and I would agree with this. China's a financial threat, but I'm not too worried about that threat really myself. But the 2 things I disagree with you on are the status of China. I was very involved with Chinese politics when I was an MP. I was hugely impressed with the
Quisling.
Chinese.
You sound like a Quisling now.
Well, I'm not being paid to say it, but China, if you are watching, give me a call. Basically, I was hugely impressed by the Chinese ambassador, who explained to me exactly their territorial ambitions over a very pleasant lunch, I have to say, which I had in the Chinese embassy. This is 20 years ago, and they've kept to the letter and spirit of what they said to me at the time. And I don't think they need to use military initiatives to achieve their goals, because there is no doubt at all that there are dozens of items, at least within 1 meter of where I'm sitting, probably hundreds of items, which have been made in China. And they just can control the world by controlling the market. I think Columns is right about that. The other one about invasion, I do not see who is going to invade Britain. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? It's old thinking. It's 20th century thinking. The only people who still, in my opinion, believe that there's a risk of European invasion and UK invasion are terrible leaders in Europe, and you. I don't think anybody else does. Who's going to invade and conquer France? When I was at university, actually, there was a group run by a guy called self-styled student called Brigadier Hughes, I think he called himself, who set up the Invade and Conquer France Society. And he used to write to places like the Imperial War Museum and NatWest, asking for loans for helicopter gunships to prevent people from going on holiday in France. And I literally think that Brigadier Hughes is right. I don't see the 100 Years' War happening again. I don't see anyone landing on our beaches apart from unarmed men of fighting age who we can't even deter now.
Most people didn't see World War One coming. Most of those people didn't see World War II coming. Most people didn't see the invasion of the Falkland Islands. Most people don't see wars coming because they sneak up on you. No one saw the invasion of Ukraine. You know, I was one of the people before the invasion of Ukraine saying Russia has no intentions of annoying NATO, annoying Europe, and going into Ukraine. They may want some of that land. Pardon?
Quisling.
Yeah, Quisling. And so they proved me wrong. Now, you're right. Is there any threat to Europe at this moment in time? No, there isn't. But do you know what? 50 years from now, 100 years from now, a year from now, I can't imagine what that threat will be. But a country has to make sure they're ready for any eventuality. Now, China is rich at the moment, making lots of money from the West. But dictators and many leaders, it's not about the money. They're already billionaires. How much more billions do you want? It's not about making more money. It's about power. It's about reputation. It's about going in the history books. It's about making sure you're never forgotten. It's about making sure you're going to be remembered as Churchill. You're going to be remembered as Catherine the Great. You're going to be Alexandra the Great. And so you never know what these countries are going to do. And China will implode. And when they implode, a great way of controlling the nation, when your finances implode, when you've got revolutions everywhere, is to create a foreign enemy, to invade someone else. So your country then is looking external, not internal. Many things could happen.
But we've got Donald Trump there on the screen again. I think it's quite obvious. He wants his legacy to be the man who proved the art of the deal can lead to peace. Even just before we came on air today, if you're watching this live, the man on the screen there said he was going to talk to Thailand and Cambodia to try to stop the war with a couple of phone calls. Now, whether he succeeds or not, he wants to be the peacemaker. He's desperate for a Nobel Peace Prize. I think he's going the right way about it. So not that every international statesman is going to try to stamp their mark on the planet with an invade and conquer policy. Is he or she?
No, but I don't think he's an international leader or politician. I think what he's doing is for the benefit of his country. He's saying to these people, this war will be bad for me, will be bad for my country. And that's why this war needs to stop, because I've got no intentions of allowing American service personnel to be dragged into a foreign war, because all my predecessors always start foreign wars to make them look like big men. I'm not going down that path. I need to stop these foreign wars, because if a little foreign war gets out of hand, we get dragged into it. And I'm not going to let that happen. So again, I don't think he's an internationalist. I think he's a make America great again by making sure these countries do not destroy us by dragging us into a war.
But then we've got Trump trying so hard to prove he can stop the Ukraine war. I think my takeaway from this conversation is that you're more suspicious of China than I am, and perhaps more cynical. Is that a right word? Yeah. More suspicious about international leaders' motives. I do agree with you very much agree with you where Trump also seems to be, that weakness in Europe is a really bad thing. Because if we had strong leaders in Europe, and I was speaking to a party leader last month in Britain, I won't mention it because I think he told me this in confidence. I said to him, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin? He said, I'd sit down and say, okay, look, we've got to fix this. We can't beat you militarily. How do we resolve that? And I thought that was a really mature thing to say.
Yeah.
So that's what I want. That wasn't Farage, by the way. It was another party leader who hasn't said this in public. That's why I don't want to share his name. But actually, that's what I want. I want people to sit down and say, all right, look, how do we fix this? We can't beat you. You've got this incredible, huge army, and you've got the initiative. We can't even defend our channel. So what do we do? That, to me, is international statesmanship.
It is if you feel that that war is affecting your country because you've got skin in the game, and the whole of Western Europe has got skin in the game here, and we need this war to end. And unfortunately, Ukraine is going to get the wrong end of the stick. They're going to, they're going to get the tough deal on this. But the plus side is you're going to stop losing all your men, because the more men you lose, how are you going to rebuild your country? How are you going to get back onto an equal footing? Because you'll be decimated. You'll be decimated for decades, which then means you're going to rely on immigration, and then that's going to change the culture in your country. All your women, some of your women are already leaving and have left the country. This could potentially destroy Ukraine, which wasn't a proper country anyway, but was trying to figure out how to become a proper country. And this war has set it back decades and decades. And as soon as it ends, the sooner it'll be better for the rest of Ukraine. That maybe then they can get something out of the chance they've got of building a nation. I mean, is it fair to Ukraine to lose this land? No, it's not. But you know what? Life's not fair and history's not fair. They've lost it. It looks like they're never getting it back unless the Americans sent boots on the ground, which they're never going to do. Europeans will never send boots on the ground. So the land's lost. Stop losing your men. Peace deal. And then we just need to move on. And I understand it's not a great outcome for Ukraine, but it's the only outcome I see.
Ricky Sickles, who I happen to know, is in the Philippines, has just said, cats make all the decisions and the dogs obey. I think it's very well put. And Ricky adds, wars don't end. They just have an intermission and open somewhere else with a different name. The oldest show on earth. Ricky, you're definitely on form today. Thanks very much. Just by way of gratitude, where can people get your podcasts?
Best place would be on YouTube. So all my handles are the same. Nick Buckley MBE. I put 2-3 videos out a day on YouTube. Some are long form interviews. Some are just me moaning at the camera. I'm on X all the time. I'm on Facebook all the time. And I've got quite a few books people might be interested. One on England, one on Anglophobia, one on feminism. So if you're a feminist, buy the feminist book and read it. It'll help you understand why you're wrong.
You and Trump have something in common, never knowingly undersold when it comes to your points of view. Thanks so much. That is Nick Buckley there. Thanks for everybody who's been in the chat there as well. I'll just add one more thought. Nick speaks for many people when he's worried about China. I do have a different view on that, but then that's the nature of free speech. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to share views that will help you to think. And if you've got ideas, do carry on in the chat. And also you can follow me on X at Lembit Öpik, always expanding, unprecedented, going from strength to strength. Please do subscribe. Go to Unprecedented TV on YouTube and type in Lembit if you can't find it easily. We're really on the march, but an army of peaceful dialogue rather than of military campaigns. And I'll simply say Nick Buckley MBE is completely right. The only solution to the problem in Ukraine is negotiation. We negotiate now, or we see hundreds of thousands more die, and we negotiate later. And Volodymyr Zelensky, if you're watching, you've forgotten the basic rule of war. If you lose, you don't get to write the terms. And you, my friend, are losing. Thanks very much indeed. I'm Lembit Öpik. That was Lembit Öpik live on Unprecedented TV. Hope you have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.